it's like a train rolling down the tracks, out of control. Everybody knows it's out of control. Everybody knows that it's failing. And yeah, the Air Force recruiting, shiny stars person, whoever it is, will come out and they spin some political bullshit about why they couldn't do this or that, or it's the job market, or the kids are too fat, or they smoke too much weed, or they're too woke, or they've been arrested, or they're not qualified, or there's just like less willingness to enlist in the military. Like, all this is bullshit. Young Americans will be happy to join the military once you fucking get rid of yourselves and put competent people in charge. They are boycotting you. They're doing the same motherfucking thing in China. This is John Koenig, and I'm back with Real Veteran News, the show that I'm trying to start, but not ready yet. So kind of just talking shit until I get that organized. First thing I want to talk about this week is military recruiting again. I want to further reiterate and expand on previous video I did, previous argument I did, previous explanation I did, explaining how the generals are failing, how military recruiting is failing, and I want to present it in this way, in that the military is imploding, and I just want to cut through all the bullshit arguments so that we can all face facts that the system's not working, the enlistment offices model is not working, the generals aren't working, and that Gen Z is a hard pass on the US military. You've already lost this generation. This is their form of protest. They are not coming out. They do not want to join the military. Because of social media, they have watched what's happened, what you did to our generation, and they have formed a youth consciousness, which is independent of the bullshit propaganda coming out of the military. And I just saw like the new Marine Corps recruiting commercial. Like, sometimes the Marines make better videos, but
Marines.
In the midst of an uncertain and evolving world, the need for Marines to defeat these shifting threats is critical.
Enemy drone down.
Because the need to ensure stability for our nation has never been greater.
Sending coordinates now.
When there are battles to win for America's future, there is one constant: Marines.
I mean, this is on autopilot, right? Like, they come out with these arguments and they look at the numbers and they say, well, the Marines made their numbers. But honestly, who gives a fuck about the Marines? They win battles, not wars. What is important is the U.S. Army, which lost 15,000 recruits. And that is a direct, at least 15,000, because you probably borrowed from Peter to pay Paul and just took recruits that were going to join up next year, incentivized them to join up this year to ameliorate the problem. And that's not going to keep working for much longer. The next thing they're going to have to do is, extend enlistments, entice people to stay in longer and stuff like that. But these are all Band-Aids on the problem. The problem is that this generation, Gen Z, is not buying the bullshit anymore. Right? This system of come join the military and maybe you can go to college someday or something like that. Like, they're not buying that. They got better stuff to do. And then on top of that, the older generation, which is like a chokehold on the U.S. military right now, and also a chokehold on the country. But the older generation, the oldest generation that is still working, chokehold on the military, chokehold on business and authority and power. They don't give a fuck. They're living in their luxury houses and stuff like that. They're not on food stamps. They're not on some military base out in the middle of nowhere. They are not fucking deployed. They're waiting for their fat fucking golden parachute. They on their last jump, and they jump on out into the defense contractors, and they get that fat paycheck that they've been working so hard for this whole time. playing by all the rules, doing all the right things, fitting in at every turn, making sure it didn't make any mistakes, but in reality, delivering nothing. These people have essentially fucked up the military brand. The military brand is trashed, cannot recruit young enlisted, and it's only going to get worse unless the leaders are put out. There's no trust. You got to go. You got to go. And put you out to pasture. And then when we bring in some people who have some brain cells left and can actually talk to young people and can explain to the youth how we're going to do things differently now, then maybe people will sign up. Then maybe the military will stop imploding and we won't lose another 15K next year. The stuff that they're saying is just bullshit. These are major transformations that are happening in our country, in our society, in our military. When the military is a reflection of society. You know, there's not just this unlimited font of young American meat for you to entice with some, you know, state school scholarship, GI Bill thing or whatever. You know, they know the deal. They're not taking it. What has to happen now is a realization that this is not a problem with the youth. That what the generals are saying are liars. These are the same liars that have been telling us that we're crazy, gaslighting us basically, telling us we're crazy, UFOs don't exist, for probably 100 years. Because they wanted to control power and they wanted to control information and they wanted the power. And they wanted to make the decisions. And this is exactly the same fucking thing that's happening now. The recruitment problem is a symptom of the officers. It is not a problem with the young people. It is a problem with the officers not doing a good job in making the military better than it was. It is the officers' fault for not standing up to the senior officers. It is the senior officers' fault for not standing up to defense corporations and the politicians, because it's all just a system, right? And it's all our faults in one way or another. But you know, it's like a train rolling down the tracks, out of control. Everybody knows it's out of control. Everybody knows that it's failing. And yeah, the Air Force recruiting, you know, shiny stars person, whoever it is, will come out and they spin some political bullshit about why they couldn't do this or that, or it's the job market, or the kids are too fat, or they smoke too much weed, or they're too woke, or they've been arrested, or they're not qualified, or there's just like less willingness to enlist in the military. Like, all this is bullshit. Young Americans will be happy to join the military once you fucking get rid of yourselves and put competent people in charge. They are boycotting you. They're doing the same motherfucking thing in China. The young people in China are not going into the corporate rat race because that's exactly what the leaders want them to do, so that they can be exploited just like the generation before. It's called lying flat in China. They call it lying flat. It's their protest against the system. That's what these young people are doing in America, Gen Z. Now, if you're not careful, you're going to fuck around and lose Gen Alpha as well. And that's what I see happening. But right now, we need to fix this situation with Gen Z. And the people in charge are incapable of doing that because they don't have the perspective. And they're living in a bygone era. Your time has passed. You have created a mess. You need to go. Other people need to come. A new system needs to come. There needs to be massive changes in the bargain between the young American man and woman and the fucking government that they want to serve, but that we all know is going to step on you and step on you down. You know, basically they have no rights, or less rights than just, for the most part, like a regular civilian American. But like, that all needs to change, because the bargain right now is not being taken up, except by the only kids that have to do it because they have no other options. And honestly, a lot of them would rather just be homeless probably than be in the military because of the reputation militaries have had. It's not seen as a good thing among young people. There's all types of stigma, and they don't want to do it. So where does that leave us? We obviously need young people for the U.S. military. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. And if the military doesn't exist or can't do its job, like, got big, big fucking problems. So, loss of trust, loss of honor. Like, where is the honor? Like, stand up to this shit and be like, you're fucking over the young people. That's why they're not joining. Acknowledge it. Don't just buy this bullshit that these generals say about how the kids this or that or something wrong with them or something like. No, and it's across all services. It's not just the Army's recruiting commander is subpar or something like that. They're all failing. The whole system is failing. The whole enlistment offices model is failing. Like plopping down an enlistment office in the hometown in the strip mall. And the kids just walk on up for, action, adventure, and maybe some college benefits when they're done. Like, that's not going to cut it anymore. They saw what happened in Afghanistan. They saw what you did to those young people in Kabul. That was their generation. My generation was out there in Kandahar, this and that, flying around helicopters, doing what needed to be done. But this generation don't identify with me and us and this and that. But Afghanistan spanned generation. The critical event was the evacuation of Kabul and that fucking suicide bomber that probably should have been mitigated in one way or another. We also have the disastrous and horrible, monstrous JSOC strike afterwards on that family that did nothing, and then Millie went out and said it was all gravy. These kids see this stuff, you know what I mean? And they're not going to listen to the generals. They're going to listen to each other. Children learn from other children. And what they saw out there, the bodies flying off the planes, and the fact that our government didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and the whole plan got all fucked up, and all the speeches and all the bullshit they've been taught in school is all fucked up and just like a pile of burning shit in the middle of Kabul. And they see young Americans like themselves, soldiers, Marines, others, go at the president's order out there, land in the middle of Kabul, surrounded. They landed surrounded. They were sitting ducks, and they did their best. And those kids weren't there to kill people. They were there to help people. And the younger people today, they know that, and they identify with them. And those Instagram posts, those final Instagram posts of those young Americans that got vaporized in the street out there by that asshole, that's what did this. Those fucking Instagram posts, and you won't acknowledge it. Acknowledge the pain of these young people and acknowledge their feelings and how they felt about that. You don't have to acknowledge like the old veterans or like the people who were in the invasion or the early days or whatever like that. But like, yeah, you don't give a fuck about us. Like, we get it. But like, you still need something from these young people. And when the military needs something from you, that's when you're gonna hear what they have to say. And like, let's hear what you have to fucking say. Let's hear what you have to say about Vanessa Guillen and all the training deaths with the incompetent drill instructors and all the bullshit, all the incompetent officers and stuff that keep getting relieved of command here and there, senior enlisted and relieved command. I mean, the system is rotten. You have no way to police yourself. No one person can do anything. There has to be some sort of intervention in order to save the cohesiveness of the U.S. military, because a couple more years of these kids not signing up, and it is fucking over.